All right, guys, welcome back to another DreamState Livin podcast, episode 3. And I am honored and grateful to have my good man, Cody Ondrick, here today. One of my best friends of all time is in the flesh. We're in beautiful Medellín, Colombia. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation just to share with everyone that listens about your story and kind of where you were when we first met and everything we went through together that's got us to where we are now, and just to dive into a little bit more of that. And really the goal with this podcast is I like to find people who I feel are truly living their life and have maybe found their version of their Dharma or in search for their Dharma. And their, Dharma is a Sanskrit word that means purpose, like our purpose for being here. So my goal through the next 45 minutes to an hour is to understand what you went through to get you to where you are now, and if you feel like you are living in your dharma and your purpose, and what we would need to do to even search more for that. So one thing I do at the beginning of these episodes is a small meditation. Are you okay with that?
For sure.
Perfect. So I'll put in the beginning of this if you guys want to skip this meditation, but I'll just guide it. We'll do a quick one. Let's just start off with, let's just kind of close our eyes. Let's settle in. Take 3 breaths. Any noises that's in the environment, don't attach to it. As we're settled in, there's no right or wrong way to settle into your meditation. You could be sitting on the ground cross-legged. You could be sitting in a chair like Cody and I are right now. It's about spending time for yourself and silencing the mind. When the mind is not silent, how do you expect to receive new information and blessings and opportunities from the universe? So by silencing the mind, we're opening up new pathways, new opportunities. So what I want us to do is I want us to visualize ourselves laying in a field of grass. Beautiful grass. The weather is perfect. It's a spring day, 73 degrees. Just amazing weather. Beautiful clouds floating by. We're just sitting here watching the clouds as they float by, sitting in this grass. It smells amazing, like fresh spring. And we're just so lit up with life and fulfillment and happiness, needing nothing but having everything. Mhm. And in this moment, we get up and we start walking, and we see a house, a small little house. And we just start walking towards the house. And we approach the door. We reach into our pocket and we have a key. We open the door. And we go into the house. Inside the house, there's a ladder. But the ladder goes through the roof and outside of the house like an infinite ladder. We observe the ladder, but we don't attach to it. There's flowers on the kitchen table. Maybe in your mind it's just one flower. There's multiple flowers or one flower. You think about how many flowers there are. You go look on the wall, and there's the most beautiful painting you've ever seen in your life. Could be a painting of an animal, could be of a sunset, could be of a mountain range, beach, a city, one of your favorite cities. It's your painting, the most beautiful painting you've ever seen. And now you slowly just leave the house. And you go back and you lay in the grass. Something about the house just filled you with even more life. You feel a sudden drop of anxiety, of nervousness. Any problems that you may have had are no longer there because anything that you need is in that house, and that house is always there for you. So we slowly come back into space. Let's visualize a white light coming down from space, beaming into the top of our head, rushing all the way through our body, through our feet, down all the way to the center of Earth, back up, through our feet, up and beaming out of the top of our head, back up into space. Just feel that energy. We'll come back to light in 10, 6, 3, 2, 1. Hear that little guy over there?
Tons of birds over here in the city.
How was that?
This is great.
One thing I like to try and do is just be a little bit different with this. And for me, I really like to calm the mind like I know you do as well. We spend time living with monks together in Thailand, and um, it's nice when you can get into that space and then move into a beautiful conversation. We live in such a fast-paced world that I think the value of calming down and spending time for that inner world is just really beautiful. And for those listening, I hope you did stay for that, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I want to take it back to 2017, is I think when we met,
Yeah.
and while living in Los Angeles. Funny enough, Cody and I had met in Los Angeles, but we both grew up in Rhode Island, which chances of that are crazy. My cousin was Cody's best friend growing up, and we never met each other until we met in Los
Crazy.
Angeles. So first off, I'm curious on like, how did you get to Los Angeles? What were you doing? If you could just kind of walk us through that.
So I would say my junior year of college is when I was introduced to having a shot at being like a model at first, and then later on getting into acting. So the first agency I was with was New England Modeling Group, over in New Hampshire, so it was close enough to my school where I went in University of New Hampshire, and went to like a couple auditions here and there, but I ended up getting into a movie there, and that was over in Massachusetts, a little bit north of Boston, and I was on set for probably like 20, 30 days. So like I really got to have like a feeling of the idea of what it would be like to be on a show or a movie. And then I got another one right after I graduated in New York, and luckily I had a friend living in New York at that time in Brooklyn, so I went and stayed with him because it's not like I was getting paid like a actor, you know, like
Yeah.
Denzel Washington or like
Yeah.
DiCaprio or something. So to just be going there for, I think I was there for like 2 or 3 months there in
In
the
New York?
show. Yeah, and I was in the show Homeland.
You were in
So,
Homeland?
yep. Yeah, and then that was another really cool, unique experience. A lot different than the movie. And that's how I got into stunts. Like this guy I was talking to actually got into stunts in the movie and in the show Homeland there, just by talking to people, just getting to know the industry a little bit more because I had no idea. I never knew how to get into it at all. And after that, I remember being like one of my last few days in New York, and I said, just told myself and my friend Josh I was living with at the time that was letting me stay with him so I don't have to pay for stay in New York, which is astronomical pricing. And I said, all right, if I really want a shot of this, I need to be in a scene to be able to have the best shot. Like Rhode Island, no shot. You know, we're not having a ton of movies and shows being filmed there all the time. And Massachusetts has some here and there, but definitely not enough to make it to the top. And like anything that I do, I just want to be the best at, be at the top. And I just ended up having to go out to LA for a week to see if I liked it. It was my first time traveling by myself. I was a little nervous at first, of course. Like furthest I've ever been going west was Vegas, where for one of my friend's 21st birthdays. So I remember just getting there, and it was just really incredible. And then that's when I met you. Actually, was that week, and I ended up getting pulled into like two just like little quick commercials, just walking on like Santa Monica Beach and Manhattan Beach. One was like for like an Australian energy drink. Another one was like for a bathing suit, and then Marco connected me with a couple of photographers, and I was just like, wow, like I just did all this in 7 days just being out here. Like I gotta move out here.
Mm.
So I applied for the Anthony Mandel acting school because I just wanted to get more into acting, and I said it started like April 7th. I think at that time too it was like early March. So I was like, wow, like I need to move out to LA in a month, and just it happened.
So you just took action right away.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm. And tell us a little bit about like being on movies, working in Homeland, and you did that first movie, 20 to 30 Days. What was that experience like?
That was really cool because there was a couple of like big actors on. I'm not good with like actors' names. I'm better with the faces. But the guy from The Office was on it there that plays Jim.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever seen Everybody Hates Chris. The kid that plays Chris was on it, and he was really cool. So just kind of asking them questions and being with people that actually make a living just being extras. Because I just started off as an extra, but I was talking to this guy every day, and like 10 days into it he was like, hey man, he's like, I never asked you like what's your athletic background, you ever play any sports or do any like exercise activities. So I told him my athletic background. He's like, oh, you want to hop in a couple of stunts. So I got to be in like a high-speed car chase, like guns shooting at the car that I was in, and it was really cool just to see how they make like the windows blow out and stuff. Like obviously
Yeah.
not shooting real bullets at the cars, but yeah, and just being on a movie that had probably like a couple hundred people in it, and
Wow.
yeah, and I think the producer too. I forgot her name, but she's a really big producer. She's won a few awards for movies as well. And then the show was really cool too. Same thing. Ended up talking to this guy. Had no idea what his role was because on a movie set there are so many people behind the cameras, not just in front of the cameras like the actors and the extras and all that, but behind the scenes there has to be like another 100 to 200 people, and it's just nuts. So you have no idea who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And it just happened at both times I was talking to the stunt guys. So then for the stunts in the show Homeland, I was in like the riots and their explosions and like getting into like fights with people, and like obviously you're not like truly hitting people and like getting hit. It was just cool to like actually see how that works and see, because now it's like shortly after I watched movies like and shows like the next year. I was like, oh, I know how to do that now. Like, oh, I picked up on this, and
Mm,
it was just pretty cool to see all that and actually like live in that experience for a little bit.
mm. To see like the really the brains and everything behind all that, and to kind of get in that mix very quick too. Not a lot of
Yeah.
people when they first get into that industry actually see work right away. So it's impressive that you were able to get work right away. And then when you got to Los Angeles, you know, you had that 1 month where it's just like, okay, to get an Anthony Mandel, I got 1 month. So you took action right away, but
Mm.
I'm sure there was maybe that guy or whatever on your left shoulder, that proverbial voice that was like, hey, maybe you should stay back here with your family. Maybe this is too quick. Did you have that voice? And if so, like, what did you say to that voice? Or did you just say, you know what, I'm burning the boats. I'm leaving everything behind in New England and I'm going out west.
I feel like the only time I had like that little voice that was saying like don't do it was just going out there for that 1 week when I met you. After that, and I saw just how much was gained in that week, and like that's at that time in my life too. Like I was just really diving deep into like the Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, what was his name, Leslie there,
Les Brown?
Yeah, Leslie Brown, Zig Ziglar. Like those were like my guys, and I was listening to not just for like a few minutes a day. I mean, we're talking like 4 to 6 hours a day.
Mm.
If I'm walking somewhere, headphones in, listening to them. If I'm taking a ride somewhere, I'm listening to them through the car. If I'm on like the plane, to download anything from YouTube and just listen to them. So like it was just like really just burying myself in them. So like whenever I would see like a sign saying like you should probably do this, like I just did it right away.
Mm. So at this point, you're feeding yourself with a lot of personal development. So
Oh
you're just
yeah.
a big student. And you know what I like about this? Cody went to University of New Hampshire and he did 4 years. What we see so often is when people finish school, they think it's like, okay, now you're an accountant, you're a certified accountant, and then the learning stops. What got you to continue learning?
I just think you can always do better in anything. There's always stuff to learn. Like even now, I've been doing solo for 3 years, but still learning stuff every day, and definitely doing well with it. But and a lot of people ask me questions, and I just tell them the same thing all the time too. I'm like, dude, I'm still learning as well, as much as you're learning if you're newer to the industry. I think there's just always room to grow. There's
Mm,
no way you'll ever know everything. If you do, it's like I don't know. You're just kind of bored at that point. There's always going
exactly.
to be something to do, learn, see something new.
Mm. No matter what level you're at, there's always going to
Yeah,
be.
no matter what level, even the top of the tops. I
Mm,
mean, even like Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, like the top guys in the sports industry, they always tell you they're always like trying to progress, always get better. Maybe not learning something new, but just trying to like just a littlest thing that they could fix that could fix their shot or their throw or whatever it is.
mm. But at this point in your life, you're 21 years old. Like, what got you to have that mindset at such a young age?
I would say it's a drive to live a more comfortable life, I would say. Just like, I didn't grow up with a ton of money, so it's like, and I saw how other people lived that did grow up with that, and I was like, that looks like it'd be a lot more fun, and just being able to like travel and stuff. Like, I didn't really travel much at all. I've only went to, Florida. It's a typical New England thing.
Yeah,
Let's go to Florida
yeah.
for vacation, go to Disney.
Florida's basically China when you grew up in New England.
Yeah, right. No, palm trees, sands, clear
Palm trees.
water.
Oh my God.
But yeah, other than that, it's like, there's so much more than just the East Coast of the U.S. And
Yeah.
now we've seen quite a bit of that just even together and not together. We've seen quite a bit and still a lot more for both of us to see.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we'll definitely tap into more of that later.
Yeah,
When did you always want to leave Rhode Island growing up, or were you not really sure? Were you just kind of open to opportunity?
not really sure. I would say probably honestly when I really started diving deep, like my junior year and at UNH there is when I really wanted to like start exploring more and could see that there was a lot more than Little Rhode Island, and a lot of people in Rhode Island just like to stay in the bubble that we've talked about a lot.
Yeah.
The people don't even trust people in Massachusetts because they're not from Rhode Island. Like it's kind of crazy. Not everybody, but majority.
Mm,
So it's just like I'd like to see something different, live a different lifestyle. And I mean, LA just feels like a different country compared to Rhode Island. Not even in the
yeah.
same country. It was just night and day.
Night and day. Yeah. Moving
Yeah,
from LA to Rhode Island was, you get there, you're just like, you just kind of felt like you were always on vacation. Is how I
did.
put it to a lot of people. but you're working and you're growing, and there's people from all over the world. You'll be at a coffee shop and it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm Ethan. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Lithuania. What the
Yeah.
heck is Lithuania? Is
Yeah,
that a
right.
country?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, learn a lot of unique people. I mean, meet a lot of unique people out there. Just like you said, I mean, I've met so many people from all parts of like Asia and Europe mostly, a little bit of South America there, and still stay in touch with those people too,
yeah.
you know. And I feel like it's rare to meet somebody in LA that was like born and raised there for like several generations. A lot of people go there per year, and supposedly 10,000 people a year move there for like the Hollywood dream. So I mean, that's a lot.
Mm.
You do that per year.
Within those first, like, say, 6 months of moving to LA, what were some of the challenges, maybe introspectively or extrospectively, that you kind of faced?
Just getting out there and meeting people. I mean, I didn't even know you. I just met you once with Marco, and
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone really, and just trying to find a good guide or someone that could like help me out, like a manager almost, and someone that could guide me and how to get successful with like the model and the acting, because obviously it's a ton of competition out there with that. And finding the right photographers, people you can trust. I mean, it's just hard to find people you can trust anywhere. Never mind in an industry that has a lot of darkness to it.
Yeah.
So that was definitely the largest challenge there. Is just trying to find people you could trust and actually work with, and that could do good work. It wasn't super expensive.
Mm.
Very difficult.
Mm. When we first connected, we had a lot of different ideas that we were working on, but I remember one thing that we started in the beginning where it was like, why don't we just make our own TV show?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Right. Yeah. Me, you, and Johnny.
Yeah, VU and
That was
our
cool.
buddy Johnny. So it was just interesting at that stage in our life. Like, there was so much creativity, and it's like, okay, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. Um, you tried multiple businesses while being in LA. Can you kind of walk us through a few of those?
I guess the show for sure. It's just again, what were we trying to do? We were trying to find people that could work with us, people that could film the right way, people that could produce it, people that knew how to market it, people that knew big producers, maybe that we could give them like the some type of plot, video that we have to give the ideas out. It's just hard to find those people because I feel like it's all about connections, at the end of the day. So if you don't have that connection that has that friendship with somebody that can get you that access to supply or just at least give you a shot, it's like you don't have a shot. And these people probably receive tons of videos and applications a day. Like, hey, I have an idea for this, I have an idea for that. I feel like for me, you and Johnny, like we just see so many shows and movies that just don't even make sense. We're like, how did this movie or this show make so much money? It's like, how could we not make a show of like three guys from New England, or just the East Coast, just living out in LA, the way that we were living, and people love reality TV.
Yeah.
Like we thought that was gonna be huge, but again, we just couldn't find the resources. We didn't have a ton of funds to work with, so it's like that was just such a difficult thing to try starting. And even like me and you trying to do like the vlogging out in Southeast Asia, it's like we had no experience with editing videos, creating videos, uh, and all that, and like it was almost becoming more of an aggravation. And we were just like, dude, how are we ever gonna be out here? We didn't even have a timeline of being out there. We had a one-way flight, so it's like we could be out here for 2 months, we could be out here for 8 months. Do we want to use half this time or the whole time trying to learn and teach ourselves how to create video and photo editing and spend money on marketing when we just had limited funds and what we were going to be able to work out there with? So I think we made the smart decision of just making it just like the best trip ever. But
Yeah.
trying to think of what else. I think those are like business ideas. I mean, for both times about in LA, like I tried working in real estate and that was very difficult too. Got my real estate license there just because, modeling and acting isn't like a 9 to 5, so it's very sporadic. Instagram was honestly like what I was living off of for like the first year or two out there. I mean, Instagram, it was just much different back then. Just using certain hashtags, you could get out there and really blow up your Instagram and your following pretty quickly. I mean, mine went from like a couple thousand to like 20,000 very quickly.
Mm.
So then when you hit like certain benchmarks of followers, more people are reaching out to you, paying you. Oh, if you take pictures with our products, like we'll send you the products, what's your sizes? I was filling out stuff like almost every day. It was just crazy how much I was posting with other clothing brands. and even like jewelry brands, sunglasses, accessories. Like it was really just like I was like, wow, like I can't believe I'm getting paid to take pictures and post it on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I was just living a dream, and then Instagram started changing its algorithms and stuff, so it just became a lot more difficult.
Mm.
And it's just like if you don't have a couple 100,000 followers already, then it's very difficult to really get going on Instagram. Like you have to be on that 24/7.
Mm.
But that's definitely how I started with that. And the real estate just was very difficult to take off. Got screwed with a deal I told you about where I helped a realtor sell a house in Beverly Hills. And they gave me $500 when it should have been several thousand. So that was like a
Yeah.
huge setback as well. When you're expecting 7,000, you get 500,
Yeah.
and it's like Jesus.
These type of things, yeah, have happened to me in different categories. So you tried, I mean, those are just a select few of the things that you've tried. And one thing that you said that I've heard you say before when we were talking about us trying to create that is like, we see all these other people doing things and it's like, it's kind of subpar. Why not us? This is
Exactly.
something I've seen you say with your success in solar as well. Can you kind of break down that philosophy, or maybe even it's an aphorism of you say it's like, why not me? Like if they can do it, why not me? Like how did that get implemented into you, and do you still use that today?
I definitely still use that today. I would say what really got me to believe that is just like I feel like we're all just human at the end of the day, and maybe sports had something to do with that too. So it's just like if one person can do it, why can't I? It's like what do they have that's much better than me? You know, it's like we all have a mind, two hands, 2 feet. It's like why can't I just go out and make this video, or why can I go out and like sell this product or service or whatever it is, or why can I go out and be like a model actor if I think you know I see I have a lot of attraction on Instagram, so it's like I feel like I had a shot at doing that. So yeah, it's just like if someone else can do it, I feel like I could just do it as good, if not better, because I know that. I guess this could go with it too. It's like I feel like I'll work harder because that's one
Mm,
thing. You know, Ray Lewis actually is a big guy on that. Like you know, in the NFL, everybody's big, everybody's fast, everybody's strong. So how do you stand out? And he goes effort and like outworking people, and that's Ray Lewis' motto. He's like, no one will outwork me,
mm,
and that kind of stuck with me when I was again diving deep into like all those guys. But I was also listening to the motivational videos at the gym with like Ray Lewis and what's his name, ET there,
Eric
Eric
Thomas,
Thomas,
yeah.
yeah, Eric Thomas, and those guys, and that always stuck with me too. Is I was like, I know that I can just put focus into one thing and just outwork anybody.
Mm. So it's like if they got the results, you know that you can go in there, you can do the same, if not way better, because you know you're gonna outwork
Yeah.
everyone.
Or just modeling somebody. It's like, all right, if this guy did it, what did he do to get there, and why couldn't I do that? If it's
Mm,
like working 5 hours a day towards this, okay, 5 hours a day, sure. Like putting work in doesn't bother me.
mm,
You know, I don't like just sitting down and watching TV or like sitting on my phone for hours.
yeah.
I like to be productive, so it's like learning new things and just really focusing on how to get better at something, especially if you enjoy it. That's like game changing. Like I always liked working out, so it's like that was always great in like sports. And then when it comes down to like the sales, it's like that's always fun if you're doing successful with it. So of course you want to
Yeah.
get better to increase the value.
Mm. I think that was huge right there. And it kind of connects back to like your purpose and your Dharma, where you can work really hard on things when you're enjoying it, right? Because, hey, I'm having fun, I'm
Yeah,
making money, I'm making an impact, I'm speaking with a lot of people. So I can definitely keep working hard at this because I'm having fun.
yeah.
Why would I not do it? And that's like being like 101, being in your Dharma, is
Hmm.
if you're enjoying it and you're good at it too.
Yeah, like perfect examples. Like I know you like golf, and there's a billion people that like golf out there, but I can't stand it. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna go and spend a bunch of money and a bunch of hours trying to become good at golf. Do I think
Yeah.
I could become good at it? Probably if I went with a coach or someone that's really good already. Just watch them and let them teach me. And it's came up in many times too in football camps I went to, and these guys, Patriots players like Patrick Chung, Merriweather, Lloyd Malloy, Devin McCourty, Matt Light, all said to me like you're very coachable. Like you just pick up on things quick. If we tell you to do this, it's like you do it the next play. It doesn't take you a week to learn it. So I forgot I was going with that, but like oh yeah, so like like something like golf or like tennis that I don't like either. Like I bet I could be good at it,
Mm.
but I just don't enjoy the sport, so it wouldn't be an enjoyable long time of becoming good at it, you know?
It's like school growing up. It's like you got to be good at all these subjects, but
Mm,
it's like, hey, I only like history
yeah,
and psychology, but you got to be good at all of these subjects. And then when you get out of school, it's like, hey, what are you good at? What do you like doing? And then from there, you can make a serious impact.
for sure.
I think that's huge. I'm gonna check the camera real quick. I can always cut this, just because the last thing I want to do is go for an hour and this thing be. All right, perfect. We're still going. So when you were living in Los Angeles and, we were living in our place together, at that point, did you feel like you were on the right path, intuitionally, even though you weren't like in your dream job yet, you weren't making a ton of money, but did you feel like you were on the right path?
I feel like I was in the right spot because I was just loving living out there. Like we were having a blast, and I feel like I was just kind of waiting for like that next sign, which isn't really good to do. Is just wait for it. Like you have to kind of work for that and see. But I also had no idea what I wanted to do at that point too. Like when I started working with Dave there at the club, like that kind of pulled me away from modeling and acting, but then kind of introduced me to the real estate world. And I mean, if that took off, I mean, I'd probably still be there now. But because I mean, the realtors out there can do very well, but again, very, very difficult industry to get into in Los Angeles
Mm.
because it's kind of what a lot of people do if they don't get into the Hollywood scene that they wanted to be at the level at that they wanted to be at. Next thing is real estate that they all go.
So we were, uh, at one point, we moved into our house in downtown LA and we're living together. We're having a great time. And then I think I came home one night and I remember I had a guy sitting at my bar and he was talking about Thailand, talking about a trip. And I think I came home and I told you about it. And I'm pretty sure that night we booked a 10-day trip to Thailand.
Mhm.
And then while we were there, we met some people and we end up committing to going over there for an indefinite location. Throughout that time, we're talking about starting Nomads No Plans, our YouTube vlog, which, as you said earlier, we got there and we realized it's like, hey, we're having a blast doing this. We're taking so much time doing the video editing. It's like the synchronicity is not really there. So, walk me through your experience with Southeast Asia and kind of
Yeah,
what that did for your life and how that helps you in your life now.
for sure. I mean, the start, I thought it was, I just remember I was like, this is our first Christmas without being like family. It was just me and you. I was like, well, let's just get ourselves a gift, which is like, let's just go somewhere unique. And I think at this point too, you've never even been out of the country,
No, I
right?
haven't.
Yeah. So I was like, well, is there anywhere that you'd really want to go? And you're like, and maybe that's why you need to go. I just talked to someone at the bar about Thailand. He's like, it sounds pretty cool. And I was like, I've always wanted to go to Thailand too. I've heard good things about it. I remember looking up flights and like the hotels, and I was like, this can't be right. I was like, $15 to $30 for like a really nice room, and looked up the flights. And it was like $400 round trip. And I just remember like I booked everything. And I was like, hey, Ethan, I was like, I guess we're going to Thailand. I just booked it all. I was like, so and then I mean, yeah, that was obviously a life changing event too because at that time I didn't follow a lot of travel vloggers and I didn't even know what vlogging was. I didn't know what backpacking was. I didn't follow a lot of travel pages on Instagram. I didn't do too much research, so that was all just kind of like brand new. I had no idea what to expect going there. And it was such an amazing trip for 10 days and just the fact that again like everything happens for a reason because we weren't even supposed to be in Kofifi. We took the boat from Phuket to Krabi, but there was just a 4 hour layover, and we were just walking around there like, dude, we have to stay one night here. Like, why not? Worst case is we're not staying at the other hotel. It's gonna be $15 for a night. And we met the awesome Brazilian guy that was like, yeah, come on this boat day. It's like hour all you can eat and drink. Then we're gonna go 8 hours this island hopping, and another hour all you can drink when we come back. We're like, wow, this sounds incredible. And we ran into three people from UNH that we all like I knew we knew each other's faces, but we never like actually met and were friends at UNH. And they introduced us and learned what backpacking was. And then that's when we were like, wow, here we go. And then that made us go out and have another several months in Southeast Asia. So, I mean, that was absolutely a life changing trip.
I remember we met. I think it was Maria. Was
Yep.
like
Man.
yeah, we've been only spending about $1,000 a month.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
like,
both
what?
of our jaws dropped. We're like, huh?
Yeah, right. It was just crazy to see that. And about the 10-day trip too. Like that's when I was really cranking with Instagram. I had like 40 to 50,000 followers and I thought being out there because I had a lot of followers out in Southeast Asia, that was going to really help me. Ended up losing my phone within a couple of hours, so couldn't do anything on Instagram. And I remember being beyond pissed for like the first hour or two, but it ended up just kind of being a blessing in disguise because I was just in the moment the full 10 days. There was no option to just chill on my phone or be looking at Instagram, trying to do whatever I could to post on Instagram, whatever. I think I used your phone maybe a couple times to like show the rooms, and that was really it. And just like the views and the buffets we had, we're like, how the hell is this $15 a night? Like this is crazy.
Yeah,
I don't
take
think it's that cheap anymore, but it was still like that. I remember those numbers specifically.
yeah. In 2017, it's
Yeah.
definitely changed a little bit now, but and it that experience always takes me back to like everything happens for us and
Mm.
like divine timing because everything lined up so perfectly for us to have the opportunity to go back for 4 months. And that experience for me really changed my life. It's probably one of the principles on why this podcast was created, why DreamState Livin was created. um, and then you had met, I forget how we met this girl. I think you initially started talking to her, the girl that stayed at the monastery.
Oh, yep.
And then can you walk us through that and how we ended up going to this
You
monastery?
guys, you remember that story? So the previous night we were on Langkawi Beach and we were watching a fire show, having a good time. Like that was probably one of the most gorgeous sunsets I've ever seen, even to
I got a
this
picture of
day.
that
Yeah,
sunset. Yeah.
Langkawi, that was a really nice area there. And we were about to go in the water, and a bartender was like flying from one of the restaurants, like, "Oh, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in." He's like, "Jellyfish, jellyfish." Like, oh, thank God we didn't just go in.
Be peeing on each other.
Yeah, right. So then the next night, same thing. We probably saw like another fire show. We were hanging out and like those very comfortable like sand couches, like those beanbag sand couches
Yep.
on the beach, watching a fire show. Great music as always. And we saw these two girls about to go in the water. And then we were the bartenders, like, "Oh, don't go in, don't go in." Like jellyfish, we're about to do the same thing last night. And we ended up talking to him, and the guy was actually from Lithuania. And I don't know how like monastery and monks came about. I think maybe she was saying like they were just coming from there, maybe.
I think that's what it was.
And she
Yeah.
mentioned pie, and like that was probably we've already heard about pie a couple times. I think people were telling us about it in Penang, Malaysia, and I remember telling her like, "Oh, I've always wanted to like meet and talk to a monk." She goes, "You can more than meet and talk to them. Like you can go live with them here." And I'm like, "No way." She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, how much is it?" Because we were on a very tight budget. She goes, "There's no cost. They just take whatever you'd want to give them." And I was like, "Wow, okay." And then I put in my phone like how to get there because it was easy, but I guess it wouldn't be easy if you're not like a like seasoned traveler. I guess like for us, it was just like a lot of like buses and vans, boom, boom, boom. Like it's probably like 20 hours of buses and vans. So like a lot of people wouldn't do that,
Yeah.
and you're just out in the middle of nowhere. And yeah, I just remember when we were in Pine, like we were like, oh, I see why everyone loves Pine and told us to come here. Like that's awesome. And you had to go there to get the van to get to the monastery. And I remember just doing everything this girl told us to do. And I end up being on this van for like 3 hours. And I keep asking me, like, you sure we didn't pass it? He's like, oh, no, no, I let you know. I let you know. And we just stop. And mind you, I haven't seen a building, never mind like any type of civilization, not even a building or a house, in probably like 30 minutes. And he just stops in the middle of this dirt road. And he goes, okay, here you are. Just walk down this dirt path. And I was like, this is it? I can't see anything. He's like, yep. I was like, okay. Just
See ya.
hop out. It just takes off. I remember that was the first time I truly felt alone, like by myself. Like it's not just like being in like an apartment or a house by yourself or being in like a park by yourself. Like I didn't. There was nobody for what I held. I have no idea miles like or that I had no idea where the next person was, and it was just so quiet. And I was like, wow, this is pretty unique. And I just started walking down the trail, and there was that house there, and it looked like I would guess a father and a son just like picking some fruits from their gardens, and I was like, Watampo Monastery, and like, oh yeah, yeah, and they just kind of pointed. I just remember walking down. I came into when they were doing their evening uh, the evening chants there when they would do all the meditation there the evening, and I just remember being like, "Are they like hitting this gong because I'm coming in?" Like, I was so confused. It was like perfect
Welcome,
timing.
Cody.
Yeah, and the guys were sitting there in this all white suit, like, "Welcome to Wat Po Monastery," and I was like, "This is awesome. All right,
What a
good
welcome.
start."
You
Yeah,
are the enlightened one.
yeah, right.
Yeah, that was
Uh,
so we actually took the Dream State Mastermind there. I don't know if you saw that 2 years ago.
yeah.
We showed up to Wapat Tamwa with 13 of us.
Wow, you're probably half the crowd.
It's gotten a lot bigger there now.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. They had like a cafe where you could buy things. That's one thing I've noticed about Thailand. You and I got really lucky when we went there because it wasn't so, it was still in like the not so developed stages. Like, particularly Koh Phi Phi, you can no longer go on you can't swim in the James Bond Island or whatever that was.
Mandalay Bay there.
Mandalay
Yeah.
Bay. You can't swim there anymore. And you and I got to jump off the boat and swim.
Yeah.
So we went at a really optimal time. And don't get me wrong, Thailand's still absolutely worth going
I'm
to.
sure.
It's phenomenal. But we just got really lucky with our time. And, you know, going from being a backpacker that's drinking every night, we were drinking maybe not every night, but most
Close to
nights,
it, yeah.
partying up till 2 in the morning, hostel life, barely sleeping, to now whoa, I'm meditating all day. I'm here for a week. What was that shift for you? And how was the first few days? Were they really difficult, or did you kind of just tap in right away?
Hmm. So it was kind of like a nice break from everything.
Mm,
Because, yeah, it's like we were just going out like every night. It was just meeting from people again from all over the world, and it was just so cheap as well to go out and do that, and we were just having a blast every night. It's like I can't remember like one night that was like terrible. And when you first get there and they kind of explain how it's gonna be, like wow, like the biggest thing that hit me was couldn't eat after 11 a.m. because I was like to eat a lot, and I was just like, all right, no meat or fish allowed. So I was like, this could be interesting. Like I'm expecting like the size of your coffee here, like a bowl of rice, and that's it, 2 times a day. But the food was actually phenomenal,
food was phenomenal.
and it really didn't bother me. Not eating in the afternoon, and I just remember having like tea or coffee at night when they would after the evening rituals there.
Slept phenomenally without having food in you since 11.
Not having food in you and just literally sleeping on a wooden bench or the ground. So like it was unique, and people would be like, why the hell would you go out and do that? But it just kind of brings it to like a whole new perspective of life, and it just it was actually around Thanksgiving time too, and I didn't think it was cold anywhere in Thailand or like northern Vietnam when it was freezing up there. And there's no windows. It's just the netting around the cabins. Like it was pretty chilly at night. You just had like this little blanket,
Oh yeah.
and I like to sleep my side. Couldn't do that on a wooden bench.
No.
But yeah, I remember the um, what was his name there? Mr.
Mr. Pong.
Mr. Pong. Mr. Pong's like, yeah, just lay on your back, like put your hands over something. He's like, that's how you sleep best, actually. And that's what I did, and it was unique that I ended up not even having to use an alarm clock, and I was just waking up at 5 a.m. to go on the walk with the monk in the morning to receive the offerings from all the villagers, and that was like super unique too. And I remember the Australian guy that was there, just kind of like a helper. Remember him with the curly hair?
Yep.
So he was like, "All right, guys, like you can go with sandals, a sweater on, or you can go like the monk goes like barefoot and just like, what he's wearing." I was like, "Oh, I'm going barefoot." I remember like the first few steps. I mean, it's just a dirt road. You got rocks everywhere and stuff. It was so chill. It's like, yeah, right? My feet were just like numb in a matter of like a few minutes, and it was just like I was like, I want to get like the full experience. I mean, you're going out there for like a 2 hour walk and just collecting whatever's not rice. He's carrying around this huge uh, pot that just collecting rice from people, and I'm carrying like all the fruits that the people are offering, and it was just so unique to see, and just all the people just right at their door, just ready for the monk to come because they
Mm.
would believe that the monks would bless their house and their families if they gave them offerings. It was just so unique to see how all that was, and every night I would go out because they had like a couple of chairs out there, and I would just kind of go out and just sit in a chair and just look up, and you're just in these mountains, and the stars were just incredible. Like it was unbelievable how many shooting stars were out there, and it was just so nice to see and not have anyone else there
Yeah.
too. Like that was just really cool. Just to be alone, especially not speaking for 5 days. The other thing is not even seeing yourself for 2 weeks. There's
Yeah,
no mirrors there.
not a
I
single
didn't
mirror.
touch my phone at all. So it was weird to like wake up every morning and you had no idea. Like I didn't shave for
Yeah,
2 weeks. I had no idea what my hair looked like or anything. So I was just sitting there. It's like I have no idea what I look like for 2 weeks, and I don't think a lot of people could do that now because everyone's like so like they need to look perfect at all times
yeah,
because there's always cameras around and people take pictures. They want to look their best. So like, that was it was really cool to experience that.
yeah. Looking like Castaway when you finished. I remember looking in the mirror for the first time. I'm like,
Oh
whoa.
yeah, it was definitely some of the most bushiest beard I've had for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about just when life's busy, I just think about that time back at the monastery, and I think, hey, Abbott, the Grandmaster Funk Monk, he's still there. We went 2 years ago. Abbott was still leading it. He looked like he aged backwards. Abbott's got the Benjamin Button going on.
Wow.
And I just think back when life is chaotic, life is crazy, and just the simplicity of a monk. And us that live in Western society, and most of the people listening to this, it's like there's ways that you can take a vacation, if you will, to learn these techniques, to go there and spend 7 days and 10 days. And those 7 to 10 days will last a lifetime. There's still things that I think about all the time from that. I did, I think, 8 days there.
Mm,
There's still things I think about and practices and techniques I learned over those 8 days I still utilize on a daily basis,
for sure. Me too.
which is very valuable. I was reading a book by Jay Shetty, Think Like a Monk, and he's like, people have trouble sitting down for 5 minutes to doing a meditation. And he's like, you need to go have like a getaway with it, like a romantic getaway with meditation, and
Yeah.
really immerse yourself in for a week or 3 days or 4 days. Because for me, I don't know about you, but the initial 3 days were very challenging for me. My monkey mind was like,
Oh yeah.
out of this world,
Yeah.
loud,
Oh yeah.
loud, loud monkey mind. And then after 4 days, it kind of just like, and I just was able to sit down and be okay with my existence and not needing alcohol, not needing conversation, not needing anything, sex, whatever, drugs.
Mm,
I just was totally, totally fine
mm.
just being how I was. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, the monkey mind was definitely, I mean, everyone's monkey mind's always crazy. I feel like mine would be a lot crazier now because I just have so much more going on than at that point. It wasn't like we had jobs back home that were just contacting us 24/7. And so it really wasn't much of like a stressful monkey mind. And I remember even talking to Mr. Pong after, like, I remember taking off the sign up a happy badge, putting down, like, all right, Mr. Pong, when can I talk to you for 5 minutes? Because I got some questions after 5 days of not saying a word, listening to any music, not reading anything. So, like, just absolute, just in your own head for 5 days, not even saying hello. And he, I remember he just pulled me aside like a little bit later and he was like, "Yeah, what's your question?" I said, I started to realize that the monkey mind just kind of narrows down into three main categories: what you love, what you miss, and what aggravates you. And then he said, that's like one of the first things that a monk is supposed to learn on his own. And he's like, instead of going to like the evening meditation time, he's like, come to my cabin. And he's like, I just want to talk about something. And I was like, ooh, this is awesome. So I went there and he's like, if you really want to get to the next level, you should do this. And he like gave me this whole letter, and it was like, it was insane. Like, I don't know if I could do it right now. It was 72 hours of zero sleep, one meal, and same thing, no speaking, no music, no reading, no talking, and just being like on your own. And just the 72 hours of no sleep, I was like, what, dude, how? Like, there's no way you could do that. I feel like you'd go nuts, especially just kind of like cold turkey in it and just going all out after living like normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
But I also asked him too, like, I remember two of the other monks, the one with the glasses there that seemed like very smart, and
The younger one,
yeah, the younger
he lived
one,
in Germany for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
him and the other guy that could switch from English to Thai language like this,
Yeah.
and that wrote the book Vipassana,
Hmm.
that he gave us the books there.
He was still there. The last guy was the only guy that was still there.
Oh yeah.
English to Thai guy, yeah.
Dude, that guy just seems like he's a genius. I don't know, he could just switch languages so fast. It was wild. But both of them said at one point when you know you're in like absolute meditation, the monkey mind's kind of out of the way. You'll see like the little light, and like you just kind of like follow the light, and that just means like your monkey mind's completely gone. And I remember like seeing that, but then I was also almost like seeing myself like walking like dirt paths and like through mountains and stuff. And that's when I asked Mr. Pong, I was like, "What do you think that is?" He's like, "You could have been seeing a past life." And he's like, "Cause that's like once you get like into like very deep meditation states, like you can see like it's possible." And I was like, "Wow, that's unique." And just a matter of 5 days of just not saying anything, of no phone, no reading music or anything. So it's like I can't imagine being silent for like 10 or 15 days, like how in depth and what you could learn about yourself.
Do you think you'll try the 72 hours ever?
I don't know. I don't know if I could stay awake that long,
Do
dude.
you have to meditate for the whole time, or is it just being awake?
Just being awake, yeah.
Hmm.
So I guess when he learned, because like Mr. Pong told us on how he was actually like paralyzed at one point. He had master monks teach him how to walk again just from meditation. Like that's insane. He said one of them was doing that 72 hours, and like there was a monk with him, so like every time like the head would nod, he'd like did like a slap and like wake back up. I was like, that's terrible. And if you were caught like actually like, you fell fully asleep for like a certain amount of time, you had to restart.
The whole 72?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So he said that it's not easy for sure. 72 hours. I think the most I've ever been awake for was like 34, and that was like painful,
Yeah.
and not my choice.
Yeah, right. Can you break down the and just remind us what you love, what you miss, and what was the last one?
What you love, what you miss, and what aggravates you.
So these are the three things that you discovered over your 5 days of meditation that monkey mind comes down to. And then when you talked to Mr. Pong about that, he said, wow, people, these monks come here to study and learn this. And I'm sure it takes a lot longer than 5 days because that's a very wise thought to have and to also kind of break down in your own mind, like, why am I having this monkey mind?
Mm,
So that's a very beautiful mind you got there. So what you love, what you miss, and what aggravates you. So for anybody that's listening, when you do have an overwhelming amount of thoughts, like I'd recommend like right now to write down what do you love, what do you miss, and what aggravates you, and kind of break down like where is most of your attention going.
mm,
Do you still utilize this today, like when you do have a lot of thoughts right now, and kind
for
of go
sure.
back to this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always ask them why. I was like, I understand the love and miss. Like people kind of think about that stuff all the time. It's kind of good to think about stuff you love.
Yeah,
You always think about stuff you miss, like reminiscing. And then, but I was like, why do I keep picturing these certain things that aggravate me? And he's like, because they are, and like you just have to picture it in your head. I forgot how exactly he explained it, but it was like kind of like remodel it in your head of something that would be okay, or like you have to initiate like, okay, I'm thinking about something that aggravates me right now. Why am I thinking about it? And like, let's stop thinking about it and switch the thought. I think Tony Robbins even talks about the two on how to get rid of a negative thought quickly and not dwell on it for hours or days, and just be like, all right, I understand this aggravates me. Why does it aggravate me though? And then break it down and say, all right, it's in the past. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. Or if there is something you can do about it, then do something about it.
mm,
And that's it.
I love that.
Yeah,
I think Tony Robbins talks about breaking patterns is what it is. So I think a good way to break your pattern is, hey, can I do anything about this right now? No. Okay, then why am I thinking about it? And then a good way to break a pattern is also through physiology, through our body.
mm-hmm.
One of those famous, just like Superman poses that,
McGregor. Yeah,
yeah, just like, ah.
yeah,
And Tony put out something that says that actually raises your uh, raises your dopamine
yeah.
and gives you more confidence.
It is tough to feel terrible with arms wide open and head up.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So after this amazing trip, Southeast Asia, you go back to America
Sad
and
day.
sad day. And now it's like, holy shit, I just spent, for you, it was like 7 months. I just spent 7 months in Southeast Asia, uh, away from home in a completely different world. And now it's like, okay, let's get back into society. And what am I going to do? And, I know a good amount about your story because of how close we are. But for the listeners, you had walked into one of the darkest chapters of your life. after high dopamine and traveling, meeting amazing people, living with monks, all this amazingness, and now you go back to LA and you face one of the hardest experiences of your life. And
Yeah,
I think this part of the story is very important for how you got to where you are today. So can you elaborate on that for us? And
for sure. So I came back to Rhode Island first, just for a month, and worked like 6 days a week to try building up some cash, go back to LA with, because that was like kind of like our deal, me and you, was how long can we last in Southeast Asia with what we have? So we came back with very little. And to move to LA with very little is not easy. It's a very expensive place to live. And luckily, I had some friends that helped me out for 2 months, that helped me get back on my feet, got a place, and again, tried shooting for the real estate. That's when I got screwed by the realtor that was supposed to give me 10% of the total commission, and I only got $500. $500 is like a joke in LA. That's not going to do anything for you. And then I also invested into a dispensary there, majority of my funds, and only got about 30% of that back, and the rest was history, gone. So that was just like two huge punches, just like, all right, major setbacks here. And then just to top it off, like near the end of my lease back at the Piero for a second time there, as you know, we had Josh there, and this was just like trying to swim across a pool, which would be no problem, but try doing it with a 50-pound sandbag tied to your ankles. It was just crazy, and that's when, again, going back to Tony says, like, one of the most important things in life is to make sure where you're living is very comfortable to you and helps you rather than hurts you. And every time I was coming home, it was just a disaster, like the worst. Like, this he was just dragging me down more than anything, and that didn't help with everything else going on, with getting screwed by the realtor. I just felt like I was getting hit from every which way.
mm,
And I remember just going to Marina Del Rey Beach, just being like, all right, why the hell is this happening? Like, I feel like I'm going all out. I'm doing everything I can. I'm making like 50 plus calls a day, uh, going to all these real estate meetings, all these real estate events, trying to meet people. And like, I'm trying to help out a friend, but he's not really being supportive with me helping him out, like not being grateful that I'm helping him out, but almost taking advantage of it, and more than taking advantage of it, which was just really aggravating me. And then I finally felt like I got thrown like a buoy when like I was about to be drowning, and Johnny hooked me up with the 72 apartment complex in Hollywood to remodel the whole thing. And I was like, oh sweet, now it's to start making good money again. 3 days later, goodbye knee. Whole knee torn to shreds. ACL, MCL, meniscus, tibia, and fibula cracked. So I go back to work the next day. Like, I'm gonna still go to work. I can still walk around. Like, I limp, but
you
I
could
can
still
still
walk
walk.
after that?
It sucked. It hurt really bad to
I can
walk,
imagine.
and my knee was like, looked like I was wearing skinny jeans on my left leg and regular jeans on my right leg because of how swollen it was. And like the guy, I could tell, he's just looking at me weird. And he's like, "Why are you limping?" I was like, "Oh, I tore my ACL like playing flag football yesterday." And he was like, "Okay." And then at the end of the day, they asked me to come talk to him. He's like, "Hey man, like, you can't be on the job site hurt because we don't know if you're gonna sue us or try to get workers comp from us." And I'm just like, I understand that you guys don't really know me. Like, I'm just trying to do whatever I can to like work right now, but I was like, I completely understand. This is a huge project, and I know you don't know me like that. So I mean, appreciate the offer, and like wish I could keep working here. At that point, I was like, all right, I just got to go back to Rhode Island, get the same surgeon that did my other knee from like 8 years ago, kind of reset, and then this time work in Rhode Island a little bit longer, and then so I have a bigger bank to work with when I come back and shoot again. Like, I didn't want it to be like the last stand.
Mm.
I came home, got the surgery, 2 weeks into recovery, whole world locked down. Here comes COVID.
Here comes COVID.
And then that just changed everything again. It's like, well, now I'm definitely not going back to LA. I know that this is not going to be a 2 week mask lockdown thing. And sure enough, it wasn't. I mean, it's still, the COVID changed the world as it is today, but it made it so I couldn't go back to LA.
Wow. So in this time, you're literally having you're getting hit in the face from every which way.
Yeah, I just felt like haymaker after haymaker, and I was like, nothing I could do about it. I felt like I was doing everything I could about it.
Mm.
And the knee at the end was just like, all right.
Yeah. In that moment, it's, I mean, it's going to be hard to say this, but did you feel like that was happening for you? Or were you more like, what the fuck? Like,
While I was in pain, screaming, punching the ground, because it is a very painful injury.
oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, right, because you know.
I couldn't fucking walk. My leg was dangling.
Yeah, I remember just being like on the ground, just punching the ground and just screaming every swear in the book because it just hurt so bad. And at the same time, just being like, what is the reason for this? I was like, I thought I finally had that, again, like that lifeline with getting that huge remodeling job at the apartment complex in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. And then once that happened, I'm just like, all right, like, is this like the sign? Like, where's the sign of Josh dragging me down and the sign of getting screwed by the realtor? It was, are these all signs? Like, are they trying to tell me, is the universe telling, like, go back to Rhode Island? Like, you need to go back. Then once COVID hit, it made me think, holy shit, like, maybe all those were signs. And, like, it came down to tearing my ACL to let me know, like, get back, you know? Because, I mean, LA was probably terrible in COVID times, especially with what I was doing. That whole project probably stopped.
Yeah, I was right in
I would have been
downtown.
able to work again.
There was the riots. I was right in the mix of everything.
Yeah.
Wow. I just love that question of what is the reason for this, because this is where a lot of people give up and they just they'll just commit to just an average lifestyle, or just commit to, you know what, I tried to do this LH thing. I tried to, work for myself and do these things, but I'm just going to give up on everything. And I'm not saying you gave up by going back to Rhode Island, but the universe kind of brought you back there. But like, why is this happening for me? What is the reason for this? Is a good question, where if someone's listening to this and you're going through something, like, why is this happening to me, is a really good question. If you want better results, you want a better life, ask yourself better questions. And what is the reason for this? And then just take step after step after step. And then for you, those steps were to come down to, it's like all signs are pointing that I need to go back to Rhode Island. Unfortunately, it took you blowing out your knee to get there. But at that point, then it was just logic, where it's just like, okay, it makes sense. I'll have my family to help me out. I'll have this. And with my knee, I had a very similar situation where I was in a relationship that I kept going back to. And I felt like my knee surgery was that final, like, that hit to me. It's just like, because literally right before I tore the ACL, I ran a half marathon. And that night before running the half marathon, I took that girl back again for like the fourth time. And it wasn't fair to her, and it wasn't fair to me. And the universe was just like, tried to tell you, it wasn't the right move.
See ya.
See ya, D.
Yeah, right.
So you're back, you're living in Rhode Island, and at this point, you know, you thought you were going to go back to Los Angeles after healing the knee, but now COVID hit and the world completely changed. You met your now fiance in this time, and then you reached out to me because you saw the success I had in solar. I think I sent you a weekly paycheck, and it was just like that
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street quote. What is it?
You showed me a pay stub for $72,000. I quit my job and I worked for you.
It wasn't 72K, but it was up there at the time. I think I had a weekly paycheck of like 25K.
Yeah.
And at this point, you and I had never seen this money, especially after our time in Southeast Asia. Like 25K in a week was nuts. So you came out and you lived with me for 2 weeks, and I taught you the solar game at this point. And at the time, I had Velocity Solar Solutions running in Rhode Island, which I created this partnership with a company, and then you just started spearheading that, and you completely blew it up. I remember days where I'd be doing my thing in California, and I actually only created this dealership just to put like family and friends through. And I knew you were a savage, but I didn't know like this type of savage. Daily, I'd be getting new deal signed. And I'd be like, holy shit. And I'd be having to pay Cody, like I'd be zelling him, like it'd take a couple days to zell him the money, like $30,000-$40,000.
Yeah.
A lot of money started to come in, and you really started to figure this game out through strategic partnerships and everything that you did. To now where we are, 2022, you broke 7 figures in solar. You've now got into development. You have companies internationally. You develop in countries all over the world. So you went from the darkest chapter of your life to now where you are right now. We're sitting in Medellín, Colombia. We're about to go through a beautiful ayahuasca experience the next couple days. Well, you're going to do it. I'm going to join for the first day. I've already done it. I've had enough of that.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, like, talk about things happening for us, but to go through the darkest chapter to get to where you are now, I mean, can you just kind of break that down for us and how you feel about, like, wow, I did need to go through that to get to where I am now. And then after that, I want to ask a little bit about like your purpose and if you feel like you've connected to it or you feel like you're still searching for it.
I would say coming back to Rhode Island was like a reset. You know, it's like after my knee was good enough to start working again, and it was definitely like a huge hit just mentally, ego wise for sure. Just to be going from again like I thought I was living the dream, you know, making a little less than like 100K a year. I think the best year I had was like 80K, just majority from Instagram. You know, and I was just like I'm living the dream right now. Like I'm literally living out in LA. You know, we're going out, always having a great time, and I'm just really taking pictures on beaches and in like green rooms and whatever. And like it was just like, you know, that's amazing. Then I came back to what I was doing in high school, which was demoing, you know, rooms and houses for mitigation or just doing remodeling jobs with my dad. So it was just like for that first month, you know, it was almost like depressing, just being like living in a place that's sunny and 80 every day, doing well to you know, all those things that happened at the end of the chapter, the LA chapter, and then coming back to, you know, winter in Rhode Island. It was February, so you have gray, cold.
Winter in Rhode Island or winter in your life?
Yeah, both. So both times combining, it's like, you know, 10 degrees, freezing out, snowing, everything's gray. And here I am just ripping horsehair plaster out of these old houses in Providence. Just like, wow, like this sucks. But it never left my mind that I was like, I know I'm gonna be successful, but I still don't know how. So you know what? I already have my real estate license in Rhode Island and Mass. Let's just go for that again. And it was starting up, and it was still being very slow. Was just doing mostly like rentals, building up. Then I had a friend say, "Oh, you know, like, you know, I need help because my business is extremely busy." So then I got into public adjusting, and that was just like it was way too much stress and way too much work for not enough funds. If you're just a public adjuster, like I was juggling like 20 to 30 reconstruction jobs, you know, 3 mitigation jobs a day, still going to like 4 houses to sign up new claims every day. People calling at like 7 a.m., 8 o'clock at night on a Friday or Saturday. Like people just have really no respect for time and just like privacy. It's just like be generous and just call within the business hours. And it just wasn't worth the money that I was getting paid, which was less than I was getting paid still in LA. So it was just still like, all right. And then, you know, probably for like the 10th time, you were like, hey, you should get into solar. And then,
Yeah, I was on your ass
yeah. Then
from the
finally,
moment I get into it.
yeah, I was just like, well, dude, I was like, just show me that you're doing well. You're like, all right. And you sent me like, I think you somehow sent me something that showed like what you made. And at this point, it was like June, July. So like in a matter of 6 months, you were making like double to almost triple what I was going to be making in a year. And I was like, okay. And then again, going back to like, if Ethan can do it, why can't I? And if all these other guys in the company that he's working with out in LA and in a much, much more difficult place, much more competitive market than Rhode Island for solar, for sure. Like, what could I do here with that? And like, I didn't even know a solar company in Rhode Island. Like, I barely even really seen solar on houses. But it's almost like that reticular activating system where it's like, you know, when you buy that new car, all of a sudden you see that new car everywhere.
Yep,
You're
yep,
driving
yep,
the
yep,
road.
yep.
So like once I got into solar, I started seeing it everywhere, but not as much as today as I did back in the end of 2021 when I finally got into it. And yeah, then just coming out and working with you for those 2 weeks, it was nice because I think that's when the company that you were with at the time just started their own like marketing. So they were feeding you leads because you were one of their top guys. So it was nice that we closed like 10 deals in a matter of like 2 weeks. So I got a lot of repetition and just seeing it. And again, like my mind works very mathematically. I see patterns. So I just watched you for like those 10 times. And I was just like, wow, like I see what he's doing. I see how he's providing value to these people. The door to door too. I just kind of saw what you were doing, and like I was like, all right, I just have to kind of fix it a little bit because Rhode Island's just a different type of temper and personality than LA is for sure.
Yeah.
And and then I remember just going into that first one. I forgot you had like a massage or something booked one
I had a
day.
Reiki session booked,
Reiki,
actually.
that's what it was. Yeah, Reiki. I knew it was something like massage, Reiki, and then I had to go meet with this guy because we had to sit, and I was like, oh shit, what do you want me to do? And you're like, you think you could sell? I was like, man, I could try. I was like, I think I could. I remember showing up, and the guy ends up being from the Philippines, and I was like, oh, this is just great.
This is gonna be
yeah,
great.
It's gonna make me comfortable. Like, oh, I was just in the Philippines for 3 months. And they were such an awesome couple. They're very nice. I remember I just came back and picked you up. I have a bowl of cherries. Got the deal.
In my Tesla, he's got a bowl of cherries. I'm like, oh, good job.
Right. It was like a 10 kilowatt system too. So it was like a solid system size. Went through to install too. And then that just kind of gave me confidence too. Like, wow, I just did that. Like, sold a 10 kilo, which is a pretty solid size system. My first ever by myself. So I just went back to Rhode Island and just kind of was trying to critique my pitch at the doors, and it was September, so luckily it was still like gorgeous, like perfect weather.
Yeah. Real quick, before we get into that, I wanted to touch on, like, I see this so often with people when, like, they're afraid to just fully jump into something. I just want to point out, like, literally two things. The first thing is you flew across country just to essentially shadow me and learn the business. So that is the definition of going all in. Like, to get to where you are now, you probably wouldn't have got there if you didn't have that beginning experience. Or maybe you would have, but maybe it would have took you longer. So you fully immersed yourself in the business for 2 weeks. And then when the opportunity came where it's just like, hey, Cody, I can't make this deal. I need you to go. You didn't shy away from it. Because a lot of people, I'm like, dude, I'm not ready. And you let that voice over control it. And then you show up with lack of confidence. It's like, hey, like, I've seen him do it 10 times. Pretty sure I can do this. And then you literally went and you closed the deal. So I just want to point out those two things. Like, take the action, take the massive initiative, like maybe proverbial, but fly the 3,000 miles and immerse yourself in the new venture, in the new business. Because if anything, you're just going to learn a shit ton. Yeah. Maybe you don't close 10 deals like we did on that, but you're just going to learn a shit ton. So I just really wanted to point that out because how valuable that was.
For sure, and I think if you just don't go all in, you'll never be like to a point where you want to be at, unless you want to be mediocre. Then for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just doing the doors, like that was definitely the most like fearful thing when it came to starting solar. Like the only time I went door to door was actually in Connecticut for the public adjusting because tornadoes came through, and I mean you're seeing like 4 foot wide trees through houses. So like I wasn't nervous because these people like really, really needed us, even though there was stuff all over the news that like public adjusters might come and try scamming you, but like that was really my only thing. And I was also with a friend that was very knowledgeable about public adjusting too. Just like when I was knocking in LA, I didn't mind because I had you with next to me. Like if I fumbled or messed up, you were there to just kind of pick it up and go from there. So I'm just all by myself, and I was just trying to see like where's the best neighborhood at first to start, and you know try picking some sunny houses. And I just went, and like I think my first day I ended up getting a couple of appointments or at least some phone numbers and some contact information. And it was really nice because it felt like nobody even heard about solar, and so that was a nice help too. So a lot more people were open to it. And the first sit I had, I think the first 4 or 5 sits I had were all full closes, and it was just like, wow, all right, so this is really picking up. And then in a matter of like my first few months, from September, October, and then up until Thanksgiving, so about like 3 months, I generated like a little over 100K, and that's after cancellations too. I had a few cancels. I remember getting my first cancel. I remember just calling a guy and be like, "Why'd you cancel?" Like everything made sense. Like I don't get it, because in my mind I thought people would only cancel if like I made a mistake or something was taking too long, or if I just kind of left them in the dark for too long. We canceled like 3 days after, like right before the site survey, and it just like confused me. But now obviously that's a very common thing I learned over the time. But like I was just so confused. I'm like, dude, I did a great job. You loved it. Like you're seeing how much you're saving. This was back in the time too, with the free first year, 0.99%. It was like free money. And we didn't even know about the rate hikes that were coming, that are massive and have really just hit people's pockets very heavily now. So yeah, just did that, and then
So you made 100K in your first 3 months.
Yeah, after cancellations. So that was, and
100K cash in. So that's not
yeah,
gross.
yeah,
That's money in the
yeah.
pocket after 3 months.
And but it took a little while to see. I think my first decent check was actually really unique. Was I was actually away with my fiance now and her family in like St. John or St. Martin, because we go to the Caribbean with her family every year, and I got my first like solid check, and it was for like 16,000 and change. I was like, oh, this is real, and that's what really made me see like, all right. And then I saw, because I always keep track of everything. Excel sheets are amazing. I saw I had like another 80K to come in, and I was like, wow, like this is all really gonna come in. Like I actually just received the 16K, and like being on vacation and receiving a check that's like nearly a third of what you just made in your last year of working in a job that you didn't enjoy. It was like, wow, like this is gonna be fun. And then I remember me and you making the goal, like, let's try and hit 400K each in 2022, and I was just like, well, if I just did 100 in a matter of 3 months and I didn't do anything in uh, November, like after Thanksgiving, and December, I didn't go and hit doors because I was like, it's too cold. Like people have a hard time opening up the door now when it's hot out. No one's gonna open the door when it's cold. So I literally did not do a thing in December, January, and February. Just kind of recouped all the install money. So like I got paid even though I didn't do anything, but got paid for my work in September, October, and November. And once I had enough, like my goal was like once I hit 50K, I know I can invest in the marketing comfortably.
Mm.
My expenses were very low at the time. So I started marketing in March, and I think I did hit doors a little bit, but in that winter time, I shouldn't say I didn't do anything. When I started to learn how solar worked and how you could just offer more than solar with solar, like roofing, like electrical upgrades, like tree removal, I started to just reach out to all the contractors that I worked with before. I set up meetings with them, told them on how that I could benefit them. So I became very resourceful, not only to the homeowner, but to also the people. And it's like all of a sudden in March, it all just flooded in. I had marketing doing very well. The first month was actually really good. And I was like, wow, this is great. And these roofers were all starting to push projects to me. Even the electrician was giving me projects. The public adjusting guys that I worked with before started sending me projects. And all of a sudden, I had 15 deals in March. And I was like, wow, I just got what I just did in those 3 months in 1 month. And I was like, 400K looks like it's going to be very doable. And marketing just took off. And again, all that just started to grow and grow and grow. And I had my best month with 34 self gens and two setter deals, what you'd call like guys that were knocking doors. They didn't feel comfortable. Maybe they didn't know much about what these people were looking for because there's several different programs. So they wanted me to go and talk to the people. So 36 deals total, 34 of them all self gens. And I remember just August and September of that year generated me after cancellations with 450K alone. And that's when I was like, okay, I know. And I also went away for a week when I got those 36 in August. I was gone in Curacao, and then we went up to New Hampshire for 3 days. So I was gone for 8 days and still at 36. And that's when I was like, all right, I know I cannot miss a day in August and September. Like, those are the prime months. I think I had 26 and 36. So I had like, what is that, 62 deals in 2 months. Yeah, and I think only like 10 canceled.
Wow.
So it was, and like two of them were commercial. It just never went through.
Mm.
So out of those 10, so like 8 canceled. So it was a very low cancellation ratio at that time too.
Very low.
And what also helped was that was the first major rate hike. We had a 47% rate hike that was announced the last week of July.
Rate hike with the utility
Utility
company, not with
company.
the financiers. Okay.
So yeah, everyone's bill, like the average was like $150. That just went up 47%. Just round that to 50. Like, what's the difference of 3%? So everyone's bill just went from 150 to 225 overnight. And we were still able, because the rates with the finance companies didn't increase yet. So we were still able to get people in before. The first rate hike was, I think, maybe like the end of September. So like it was like a rush to get it. So it was just really good timing.
Mm. Timing is huge with a lot
Yeah.
of things. There's this quote that I heard a while ago: "Commitment breeds creativity," and in the beginning, you're talking about you started to reach out to roofers, you started to reach out to tree people in your network, and you created value for them for they could bring value to you, which is one of the key things that's got you to where you are is these strategic relationships. How did you know to do that? Because I see a lot of people that come into solar and they try and cheat the way out of the doors. And a lot of times you just need to put in that initial work in the doors. But you kind of cracked like a code, if you will. So can you just walk us through that?
It's just trying to, you have to tell people how you can be very resourceful and how you can help them and their customer. If there's ever a situation that's a win-win-win situation, 3 wins, it's going to be a very easy sale. So like I would tell these roofers, I'd go and I'd meet with them and I would say, hey guys, like, how many times you go to a house that the customer needs a roof and you're like, all right, well, let's see, can it go through insurance? You try that, well, it doesn't happen. Okay, well, the roof's could be 15,000. How many people these days have $15,000? Whether roofs can go anywhere from 8 to like $40,000. Let's just say 15 to 20,000 is like an average roof. How many people have that money in their pockets? Be like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Like average person, according to Google, has about $1,200 in their bank account. So how did you come up with 15 to 20,000? And if your roof is currently leaking, that's not something you can just kind of like wave off. So I came to them and said, and they said, of course, yeah, we have that all the time. And then the people have to take out like loans from a bank. They got to take out equity loans. So it's like, okay, like what if I told you that I could get them solar? You guys could still do the roof. They don't have to pay a single penny out of pocket, and they're still going to be paying what they pay now in electric, or maybe even less, depending on the roof with the sun exposure and what size system it is. Like, oh, really? So then I feel like they all tested me and gave me like one at first, and they saw how easy it worked. They got the roof. They got paid the following Friday, like I said they would. Like, oh wow, this works. Let's give them more. And then it just started to flood in.
Wow.
And then with electricians, you're just like, hey, you just kind of incentivize them. Like, hey, like at first, like the first few you give me, like I'll give you an incentive payment like $500 for people if you're going to do electrical work at their house. I've had so many electricians be like, oh yeah, people always ask me about solar, but like I don't do solar. I don't know any guys in solar, so yeah, I could always send them over to you. I'm like, great, if you do that, then I'll give you 500. If you really start to send a good amount, I'll up it to 1,000. Just incentivize them to give them to get more. And then even with tree guys, like they'll be like, hey, like I have $10,000 worth of trees these people want removed, but they can't. With these trees gone, I think it'd be a good house for solar. You can just type it on Google, look at it, and they'd show you what trees they want to remove. Be like, oh yeah, this could be pretty good. And then you just wrap that in, and it's like they're still paying less than what they pay in electric. It's an absolute no-brainer.
Mm. So when these people just, the way they could bring it up is, hey, this is a win-win-win scenario. And do you think that this would still work in saturated markets?
It still does. I'm still doing it today. Absolutely. That's just this past month. I had several deals, and that's all just from referrals. You know.
Boom. So if you want to step up your referral game, I mean, replay that 10 times because
Yeah.
that's just like a massive, massive way for you to generate more wealth on top of all the work that you're putting in.
Yeah.
I think that's when I first learned how you're doing this, I'm like, wow, Cody cracked the code. And it shows with your bank account too.
Yeah, for sure. But out of in 2022, I had 152 sales. 84 of those were referrals. Whether
84 referrals,
so a
more than
little
half.
more than half. The rest of that was marketing and a couple doors. After March, I really never knocked again. Yeah,
I'm
lucky.
sure a lot of you guys
Yeah,
would want to do that,
yeah,
that have been in the game for a while and love it. Love selling solar, love helping families, but just don't want to knock doors anymore. Like, this is the recipe that is going to get you to that next stage where you could be bringing in referral based business all the time.
yeah.
Because it takes a lot of stress out of it, too, where, oh, I got to go knock doors all week. And then it's like, okay, now I got to get back and put my closer hat on. But
Hmm.
you're pretty much always just in your closer hat and then project management hat.
Yep, for sure. And just it's nice too because the first few, the roofer would kind of come with me, so then that they could just see it for themselves. Maybe learn a little bit themselves how they could kind of softly pitch it to people because you don't want your referral base to be giving too much information as well. Because then the people be like, oh, well, I feel like I heard everything. Now I don't need
Mm.
to meet with this guy and spend an hour with them, and just showing how you can be that resourceful for them. But key thing is like the customer is gonna trust you more if they see you with their roofer, their electrician, or their tree guy, or their public adjuster, they're like, all right, I'm already working with this guy. I trust him. If he's saying that I can trust this guy, then okay, like I trust whoever he's going to refer over to me. And then when you come in and you actually know what you're talking about as well and break it down so they understand, and it's just like, oh wow, great. And then yep, yeah, all three of us could be working together like throughout the whole process. I'm not gonna send you to a 1-800 number. You're talking to somebody else in a different country. Like you'll be with me throughout the whole thing.
Mm. And that creates a lot of competence within the project.
Yep, for sure.
I love that, man. And kind of like to wrap everything up, a question I like to ask is, the reason for this podcast is about finding Dharma. It's about finding your purpose in life. And I like to bring people on who have gone through challenges and gone through a lot of highs and lows. And, we've learned today that you've definitely done that. So for you at this stage, like, do you feel like you've found your purpose in life? Are you still looking for that, or what's next for
Mm.
Cody?
I would say I'm still trying to find that. I think, I've always wanted to do something with travel. Like I think vlogging, but I don't know because we never like truly did that.
Mm,
I think solo was just a massive step up to be able to give me the ability and the resources to help me find that.
yeah,
But
good
so it's still
resources.
just kind of searching. That's why I have the other businesses now. I do enjoy developing a little bit. I mean, obviously everything is going to have its obstacles, but if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not going to be that bad at
Mm.
the end of the day.
So for you, like, what brings you the most happiness when you think about that with work and with life? Like, what is it?
So when everything just goes smoothly, that's always
Whenever
nice,
they go
and that's
smoothly.
why I do whatever I can to make that happen. And that's what sucks sometimes when you have to like rely on others, and it's just it doesn't come through. Then the people are mad at you because you're like the face of the project.
Mm.
That's just very letting down. So it'd be nice to have something where I have more control of
More
it because I
control.
have very little control. All I do is break down the numbers. Now I'm relying on maybe a dozen other people, the town, the utility company, to come through on their ends. And sometimes they take forever, sometimes they're clueless, and then the client's upset, the customer's upset, and then it just kind of creates chaos. But
Totally.
as long as you're just always, my thing was always too, I was much better at this when I first started, is just contacting like at least once a week, just being like, hey, we're waiting for the utility company approval. Hey, your site survey results came back in, everything looks great. Hey, we just got your permits. You should be expecting an installation
Mm.
call within the next few days. People want to at least know what's going on, even if nothing's going on.
Yeah.
People just don't like to not know. Like
People
this is a
like that
big
over
project.
communication.
Yeah.
Totally. What do you, when you look back to 5 years ago, first moving to Los Angeles and thinking about purpose in life to where you are now, uh, what does that look like in terms of difference?
Hmm. Yeah, being 22 years old, living in LA, that was a. We were saying 5 years ago, moving back to Rhode Island.
No, let's go back. When you first moved to Los Angeles. So what's that? 9 years ago now?
Yeah, yeah, crazy. We're close to it. That's tough because you're 22, so it's like you're really just trying to find yourself at that point. And I think that's like one of the main reasons why I moved out there. It's just seeing like, is the model and acting like what I'm gonna really like to enjoy and do. It was really unique as I just did an astrology reading a couple weeks ago, and based on my whole chart, the lady told me that uh, like my career I would be best in is model and acting pretty much. I was like, that's unique. Like, I left that, but but it made me think vlogging because it's like I mean you are acting. You're just kind of acting in front of like a handheld camera, and you're also traveling at the same time. Like I always looked up to like Los LeBlanc. He's
Yeah, I
definitely one
like
of the
him.
largest vloggers out there, and he's just super successful. And like whenever I watch his videos, I'm just like, why the hell can't I do that? Like,
Mm.
why couldn't we have done that? I personally think if we took like 2 months of just learning how to do that on the back end, like we're very good with just showing like cool things. Like we did a lot of like very unique experiences out there. It would have been easy to obviously show that, but how to make that appealing to millions of people to watch,
Yeah.
that was a tough thing in editing. And there's a trick to it that just it would have, I think if we just dove into it for 2 months and not even have to spend that much, then we could be in a different place right
Mm.
now for sure.
So you think with kind of connecting things, you think with where you're going now, you know, you've had so much success in solar.
Mm.
For you, you want to get back into like the
Maybe not
modeling, acting,
vlogging, but
vlogging.
like even my fiance has said like she'd like to somehow do like a travel page for because we definitely do a lot of travel, and she sees couples on Instagram doing it all the time. They have like 1 million followers, and like when you're touching 1 million followers, I mean you're making 6 figures easily.
Yeah,
I mean I had like 40 to 50,000. I was getting close to that. So if you have 1 million followers, you're probably making like over a quarter million, I would say. And if you could do that just from taking pictures and getting like free stay at gorgeous hotels around the world, I mean, that's a pretty nice lifestyle. That would be really cool to get into. And she's looked up classes in like Greece and stuff, but again, that's big. It's like to go out pay like 5,000 or 8, 10,000 for a class. It, I don't think that even included flights. So now you're talking like another 1,000 for flights, decently long flight to Greece. I mean, Greece is awesome. Um, that's a huge commitment. Like I know we said, like I like to go all in, but to spend that much and go that far, and if you don't get the most out of it, like I'd really have to look into it, see like reviews. If they had a lot of good reviews and like success stories, I'd probably do it.
mm,
But if I'm just going off of like an ad, that's kind of risky. You
yeah,
always have to weigh risk and reward.
mm-hmm,
I'm risking 10,000 in a week to maybe learn something,
mm,
not definitely learn something.
100%. Love it. And you know, you've had a pretty interesting life and you've done a lot throughout your life. I mean, for people who are listening who are looking to maybe take the solar route or maybe travel in their early 20s or just live a life, like what advice would you have for the 21-year-old?
I would just say have no fear of doing that, and it doesn't cost that much to travel, honestly. Like especially when we were going to Southeast Asia, like everyone was like, "Dude, don't go to Vietnam. Like they hate you there. Like you could get like kidnapped or killed there." And I was just like, "I don't think so. Like a lot of people go there. Like I'm sure I'll be okay." And we went there. It was like the people were amazing. The food
Yeah,
was
they were
amazing.
phenomenal.
Yeah, the people were super nice. You know, and I even got to do a 3 day bike ride with two guys that lived through the Vietnam War, and like I was like, oh, like is this guy not gonna like me now? We're talking about Vietnam War, but he said honestly, like they love U.S. citizens, you know, and then I was just like, wow, I was like, so people just kind of go off of the news more so, which is always just trying to scare you in one way because I've read this multiple times in multiple different areas, but the news always has to have a negative or like a fearful agenda on it because it'll get people's attention more. If
Yeah,
they're like, "Today is sunny and it's gorgeous and everyone's at the beach having a good time," it's like okay. But if you're like, "We're having a huge storm, it's gonna do $1 billion of damage," like everyone's, "Oh, oh God, okay, here we
yeah,
go,"
everyone
or
pays attention to that.
yeah, or people are getting kidnapped in this country, and we should stay away from this, and show pictures of like shootings and stuff. Like, oh my God, like that's crazy. Like, it grabs the attention more because it's grabbing fear.
Yeah,
So news
fear
is
is a
more
big motivator.
fear based. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a few countries I probably wouldn't go to because they aren't the safest places. Like even here, our tour guide yesterday said you would not want to be here in the 80s. Like there's
Yeah,
a high chance you would could get injured or killed there in the 80s. But now, I mean, the place is amazing.
but it's amazing. Yeah,
So it's just like do a little bit of research. I mean, just have common sense with where you're going, and you'll be more than fine. And it does not cost that much. You can travel very cheaply.
very cheaply. So I think it just breaks down to whatever it is, whether it's travel, business, you know, with Cody's story of going to LA and working with me and then that leading to him making 100K in 3 months, like you just have to eliminate fear. So whatever it is that you're going for, whether it's looking to finding your Dharma, finding your purpose, or maybe just getting into a business right now and gaining skills. Gaining skills is so important and it's going to connect you and get you to your Dharma. So Cody,
Yeah,
thank you for being here with
for
us
sure.
today in this beautiful
Appreciate it.
Medellín.
Oh
We
yeah,
have a couple more days together, so thanks for coming on the podcast, man,
absolutely.
and much love.